Good evening, and thanks for joining us. We have the great pleasure tonight to have Dr. David Arnold here with us again. Thank you for joining us again.
My pleasure. I really enjoy it.
I think last time we spoke was when COVID was just coming on the scene, and I think it was and I think now is a good time to follow up on, now that we're seeing the end of it, not the end, but we're seeing, there is how things are in dentistry and maybe, how you're dealing with it and what kind of protocols you'll have in place going forward. I mean, we talked a little bit before the camera started rolling, but how are things?
Well, it was a shock. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing, and we were shut down like everybody else. For even minor emergency care was we had to be really aware. We had to be very cautious. We had very strict guidelines that were pointed out to us from the Dental Society, from the Health Department, from the CDC. The problem that we ran into was the guidelines weren't consistent, and that, we were hearing it from every alphabet, out there, from the CDC and the ADA and the California Dental Association and our local health department, and everybody had, even the Dental Hygiene Society came out with a whole, and these weren't 1 or 2 pages of guidelines. This was a stack of just every minor little detail, but they didn't all match up.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
And so what had to be done was, and it was on me basically because I'm the decision maker. So as I went through the guidelines, I found what to me made sense. Right. It was really what, and this is some of the stuff we were talking about beforehand, was that there are, and it's changed too. I mean, we first came out, everybody was afraid. Right. I mean, I was afraid. Right. And I didn't know how it was going to affect not just my patients and my staff, but me and my family, and like everybody. And those were concerns that I was across the board. Yeah. But now I'm trying to get reestablished, get opened again. But how am I going to do that? And what are which guidelines am I going to follow the most? Kind of thing. And there were consistencies, obviously, but there was a certain amount of how do I do this, and just step gently into it, and rather than being able to just say, okay, you come in at 10 o'clock and you've got a 10:10 appointment and so on. We're thinking, okay, we got to think linearly. We can't think 3-dimensionally. We got to be linear. So that we had to have one patient.
Every patient is a box, right?
Correct. Yeah. And then one patient, and then one patient, and then one patient, and each patient had to be questioned and documented, the questioning and their temperature taken, and the waiting room had to be changed around, and we're out with measuring tapes, and I mean it's a new world. It's an absolute new world, and I've done this for a long time, and this is all of a sudden that what somebody's scrambling my world, and but I think the good news is that we didn't have to change a lot. I built a glass cage around my front office person, and I'm going to leave it there. I saw places where they were just putting little plastic sheets.
She's kind of unruly, and she kind of needs to be in that.
Yeah, well, she's tied up too. But and these are these thought processes that I was going through that. If I'm going to do it, I'm not going to just put some plastic up there. I want something that I can clean, that I can repeatedly clean, and that it will it'll be appropriate as far as what our standards are. Sure. And glass, you can put acrylics and things like that. But we're using pretty strong chemicals, and so to me, I'm going to put walls of glass, and they're going to stay there. I mean, I did it very intentionally that this is going to be something that I think in the long run better for my receptionist anyway, because and I think that we're finding across the board that there's less colds out there now, and there's less flus out there now, and because we're doing these things, and But there were certain physical things that we needed to change as far as the office was concerned. But it wasn't a lot.
Right.
And then our sterilization processes we didn't have to change anything. I mean, we sterilized everything. Mm-hmm. And as far as the rooms and cleaning the rooms and the chemicals and things that we needed to do for countertops and so on were very, very few changes. We tried to get to more disposable things.
Sure.
I think that was... And that's always kind of been a guideline, is anything you can get and then throw it away is better than something that you're trying to keep clean.
Right.
And so that was something that just we reevaluated everything. And then we went to a course that talked about, I mean, it's a standard course that we take every 2 years, and it has to do with bloodborne pathogens. And it goes to OSHA and kind of across the board kind of thing that we do every 2 years as far as licensing is concerned. And we found one that had a specific COVID-19 approach. So and I have people come in and go through my office about every 2 years, and I want somebody that goes out and teaches people how to do it come into my office and critically go through it. And because we do that, we didn't have to make a lot of changes. The biggest change is what I wear. And, 40 years ago when I started, I wore shorts and a Hawaiian shirt,
Sure.
You're the cool guy, and I had to tie my hair back, But now with scrubs, I change my clothes when I get to work, and then we put a gown over that, and then masks and shields. And, there's a few things that we've added more than really changed. It was more additional. We found that we were, in the spirit of having disposable things, we were throwing away a lot of stuff. And we were filling up bags of these gowns and things, and it was like, God, this is crazy. So my sister's a really good seamstress, so I sent her one of these disposable ones. Said, "Hey, Kathy, do you think you could make a bunch of these for me that I could launder?
Sure.
And we'll do a little research, find the right fabrics and stuff." So she was all on board with it, and sent me a text with a picture of her sewing room with 3 computers.
Very cool.
All everything. She goes, "I'm ready," So she made all the things that we have, and we launder in the office. Everything is we got a washing machine and dryer. We do it all right there.
Yeah.
So everybody comes in, puts on the appropriate gowns and such, and then everything is taken off, and they go home in their street clothes.
So that way you're clean and green.
Clean and green. Yeah, I like that. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe the amount of stuff we were throwing away.
Oh, I mean,
it's bad enough. I mean, because we put covers on the chairs and all of that sort of thing. But to add gowns and several gowns during the day, it was just nuts.
I mean, as a world and society, I mean, we were complaining about the plastic straws and stuff before, but that's going to be nothing compared to the mask. I mean, it's going to be a whole other wave of things that we're going to have to do.
And again, when you look at this from just a general population kind of thing, that we're keeping more distance between people. I mean, sitting in a waiting room. How many times have you sat in a waiting room in a doctor's office or a dentist's office and had the guy next to you sneezing?
Of course.
Or blowing their nose, or the little kid, blowing their, and then touching everything. And I mean, these are all things that were just kind of expected, or it just.
Sure.
I always noticed, but. But it was common to me anyway.
This year was the flu season that wasn't, right?
Right.
It wasn't. I mean, it was actually.
That was my point.
Season. I mean, we didn't have one.
Yeah, and colds. I mean, hay fever is kind of strong right now, but just the overall general health of people, I think, is better because we're more aware, and we're more aware of contact, and even in our homes, we're wiping off doorknobs and cleaning our phones and doing stuff that. Oh, I didn't do much of before.
Dumb question is, I know that there's a lot of research now on the bacterial environment in our digestive tracts and all the rest of the happy, that kind of stuff. Do you think there's and there's been some studies that have shown that kids that have a lot of childhood asthma and stuff like that, too hermetic, living in too hermetically sealed of a bubble
is that detrimental?
That can have detrimental effects as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
I mean, our immune systems are built around protecting us from things that we need protection from.
Right.
I mean, and how that immune system develops is important. I mean, back to just our tonsils.
Yes.
It's just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're there to help produce red blood cells and to make up for lack of bone marrow production in a child's immature bones. But they're also there to help start building the immune system. And part of that is exposure. Just being exposed. I mean, physically to allergens, to pollens and grasses and this and that. I mean, and that it's not just a something that is going on inside, but it's physical contact with things, and we need to be physically in touch with disease. I mean, that's kind of harsh, but
didn't they find even on COVID that there was a dosing threshold almost, wasn't there? Almost like if it was just a little bit of, it's like they were some of the stuff I read about how they're starting to work with some of the kids that have really bad peanut allergies. They're putting a peanut patch on them, to give them a low-level exposure to it.
Well,
consistently.
The whole idea of desensitization. I mean, it's actually part of a lecture that I do, because I do a lot of lecturing about airways and breathing and so on in children. But desensitization is a process that it gives you low amounts of what you're allergic to in order to develop the immune system. And what they do is once they give you a bunch of little sticks, and they'll stick you with 100 different things, and they'll number all the spots. And some of them are going to react. And those are the ones that, we're sensitive to that. So now they're going to build a system of injections over time of small, very small trace amounts of that you are allergic to, and then expose you to it. And that's how you desensitize the system to something.
Yeah.
And the COVID, the vaccine, is basically kicking your immune system in the butt and telling it to wake up and go to work.
Right.
That's what a vaccine is, you know, and it's very interesting the reactions people have after the vaccine. I mean, I got flushed, kind of had a headache, kind of felt crappy the next day, but it's basically your immune system waking up. Now, my wife, who has a very compromised immune system, she didn't have much of a response to it, and so, there's kind of, you kind of scratch your head and like, I would have expected her immune system to really kind of come on board. Let's go to work.
But she's some of it is compromised anyway.
Right. So her immune system, she didn't react to the vaccine like I did.
Right.
Because her immune system isn't all fired up. Although, I mean, she's had the vaccine, and hopefully we'll have the same type of protection, that we're hoping for with the vaccine, but it is basically your immune system waking up, and the vaccine is throwing something at it and going, okay, wake up to this. The next time you see this, you got to get rid of it,
right?
And that's what it is.
A little bit of a change of subject here. Now, dentistry as a whole, what are you seeing as kind of on? What's new in dentistry? What's on the?
Oh, geez.
What's
well, we
new?
talked a little bit about this last time.
Yeah.
Kind of the new buzzword in dentistry is airway. I mean,
so you're still on the air. You're still seeing a lot of the airway
still,
stuff.
And I see more and more of it. I just got notice of a pediatric airway symposium. I've been to a couple of them, and the newest ones is like in Philadelphia or someplace. And but that brings to mind our whole continuing education protocol is like everybody else's is changing. I mean, now I don't have to go to Philadelphia. I can do it digitally. But to me, that loses a lot in that translation, because I like to be around other people that we're all talking about the same thing.
Right.
And you really lose that. I lose it in my lectures at UCLA. I just 2 weeks ago had one of my lecture times. And I'm doing it in my dining room, on a computer, talking to my slides. And it's frustrating because I'm not getting that interaction. and to sign up to take a course, and then sit back in my dining room with my computer listening to somebody lecture. It's just losing a lot.
And seeing the light bulb go off in a student's head is different than seeing a hand raised on Zoom, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And whether they're even still sitting there, these are residents, you don't know. But
they put a placeholder image.
Right. Some cardboard cutout, But that has been a change. I mean, and I just got a notice yesterday from the Dental Society about that there are now waivers in some of our continuing education requirements as far as timing is concerned. And again, it comes down to what's sort of available out there, because so much of that landscape is changing. And so much of the standard, even the academies that I've been very active in, now they're combining with another group to do a course that was going to be in Seattle, but now it's going to be digital. And, it really, that to me is a big change, because I like to go not only just to hear a program, but I have guys sitting next to me, and just like, well, what do you think about that? And how do you do this? And you learn as much sitting around at lunchtime as you do talking to the guys at the table. As you do listening to a lecture.
There's a camaraderie as well. These are your peers.
And this is everybody's gig. We're all we're all asking the same questions, and somebody will go, oh, hey, I ran into that, and it's like, well, what'd you do? And well, I kind of handled it like that.
A question on that, I think, isn't dentistry among a lot of the medical professions? It's one of the most entrepreneurial, right? I mean, because a lot of the other professions, they're on staff somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys.
Well, and that's a really interesting question, because they said by the year, this was another article I just read in a journal. By the year 2030 or something, the practice like mine will probably not even exist.
Really?
That it's all going corporate.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, a friend of mine in Southern California just wanted, he's retired, my age, what are you doing, man? Anyway, but he's an orthodontist in Southern California, very successful practice, and he was trying to sell it, the business.
Sure.
And it's just not, that whole scene is changing. And so what happens is this corporation comes along. Some guy is running like 15 ortho practices out in the valley.
So you're starting to see that.
Yes, and so he ended up selling to a corporate entity rather than another orthodontist.
Which in some ways is kind of sad.
I think it's really sad.
Because that was kind of the generational thing, right? You sell it to the new guy coming in. He takes over the,
Yeah, and have somebody that you can mentor, and I've got 40 years of stuff rambling around in my head, and it would be really nice to be able to share that and move forward. But the way these things are coming out is somebody comes in and says, okay, we'll give you X amount for your business. And the first thing they did with him was they closed his office and moved it into another office where they were combining some things. So his office just, they let the lease go and took some of the equipment and closed him off.
So he probably got so much a patient based on whatever formula was in vogue at the time.
Yeah, and I think they even undercut that.
Yeah.
Because they can, and they so he works back for a couple months, but it's like works maybe 3 days a week, and he's now, got a boss, and it's just like, all of a sudden it's like game over, and they just, turn in your keys and see you later, bye. And so it's a very different world, because what you just described, where you come in and you mentor somebody, and you bring them in, and you kind of work your way out. And I even designed my building like that, where I figured that, I've got 2 hygiene chairs, and I've got 3 general chairs, and then I've got some ortho chairs and TMJ room kind of thing. But I always figured that as I transitioned, I would end up back in this corner with 1 chair and, working 2 or 3 days a week maybe, but transitioning to another guy like me.
Working patients as they age out, he takes the younger ones. And
but basically turning it into the same practice I had. Somebody that now becomes me.
Yes.
And that's changing. That's a big deal. Now, dentistry itself is still, dentistry's dentistry. I mean, materials are always changing, bonding agents and veneer stuff and even use of lasers and things.
Sure.
I mean, all of this stuff is all in a state of transition, as in any business, or any world. But the concept of the dental practice is definitely changing.
Question. I think is we see those trends, and I think that's one of the things we've talked about this one previously is one of the great things I still love about our small communities is they are still communities.
Yes.
And I think that, in this post-COVID world where everybody's been in a bubble for a year and everything else, don't you think in some ways the pendulum may swing back to where, there's a value add of having an individual owner. I mean, there's a personality to the business. There's a relationship there. There's a, it's like Amazon came out today where Bezos said he's in favor of raising the corporate tax rate. And to me, that was saying is fine. That's from a political thing. That's fine. You're in favor of raising the corporate tax rate. But if you look at the underneath of it, Amazon is a beast that devours everything. And, they've been willing to live with no profits. For them, I just looked it up today. They went 14 years without ever declaring a profit. So for them, they're like Pac-Man. They want to eat everything.
Oh, yeah.
But at some point, people are going to start pushing back on that. Because they're willing to pay 28% of no profits is different than.
But my friend's that sale and the transition that he went through is an example of what you're talking about. Is that somebody's going to come along and start wanting to maybe. Have the dental world of Calaveras County or 3 counties all under one umbrella, kind of thing. And, again, I've done this for a long time, and dentistry is it's not people's favorite place to go,
it's a very personal thing.
Exactly, and that's my point, is that it's a very personal, it's a very intimate relationship.
Yeah.
And as soon as you start turning that into a corporate sort of thing, then profit becomes the motivation. It's how many people can you see? How much is that patient worth? And when they walk in the door, a new patient. I mean, they've got these statistics.
Customer lifetime value.
Where the manager, these managerial courses, that you go to. Yeah, they come in. What's that new patient? What's the value of that new patient? How much dentistry can you sell that guy?
Right.
And that so offends me.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I can't even tell you. The word sales just absolutely kills me because I'm not in the business of selling. I'm in the business of reporting and just describing what I see and giving recommendations. But my job is to tell you what your condition is.
Right.
And then if things could be better, what are your choices to move forward in doing that?
Yeah.
I'm not there to sell you anything. I mean, but that's where it's going. And I hear that you can tell I get a little upset.
No, but I think it's a valid question.
Because I see that coming and it just offends the heck out of me. It really does. And I hope there's enough pushback and things from.
I think there will be.
From the patient standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, they want. I think I'm more comfortable with my doc, kind of thing, and I think people they want that. I think that.
Yeah.
But then your insurance is going to send you to this guy because they're cutting him off at the knees. By the way, I mean you would be amazed at what sort of fee schedules I see that I'm supposed to try and run my practice with.
Right.
And you can't do it.
Right.
I mean, so what do? Well, you send your lab work to Thailand. You buy your stuff in bulk, but now you can get together with groups and buy stuff in bulk. That these things come in the door. And they're trying to sell you these things. I mean, it's very, it's corporate driven, and it's getting more and more corporate driven, and And again, it's just difficult for me because I mean I'm 40 years into this, and you know, maybe it's time that I'm a dinosaur, you know, but that's okay.
I don't think so.
I like what I'm doing, you know. I'm going to keep doing it.
I think, you know, without veering into political stuff, I guess we just slip a toe in a little bit. But, you know, and that's one of the things I love about small communities, because in our communities here, we can still agree to disagree with people and still be friends, still be married to people, still, you know, all this other stuff. And if you look at the national landscape, it's almost you're supposed, you know, we're forcing people into binary choices. They're in one camp or the other.
Yes.
And that's why I think small communities are vital, not just in dentistry and stuff, but, you know, in society, because
in general, sure, I agree.
Life is nuanced.
Yes.
I mean, you know, and I think life is not a binary thing.
No.
I mean, and I think we're trying to force people in boxes.
Right, right. But and the thing is that no, there's not a good outcome. And the thing is that by identifying those boxes, you're eliminating so much other stuff, you know.
Yes.
There's just so many other variables that are out there. I know in my world, it's just, you know, you can't just cut it down to these little pieces and identify it as such. But
that's not even good dentistry in your practice, right? No. Because, I mean, sometimes, you know, fitting it in the box doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best solution just because it fits in the box.
Right, right. Or is that treatment plan is best because that has the highest return on investment kind of thing, you know. Sure. So if I can get them to take this treatment plan, well, I'm gonna make more money, or it's gonna be less chair time versus less lab time and a bigger fee.
Right.
I don't want to think like that. I don't ever want to think like that. But that's where and you see young guys going to consultation groups and management seminars, and that's what they're telling them. And it's very frightening.
The other question is, do you think it's going to lower the number of people who even want to go into the field?
Oh, I think
if you put everything in a box like that, they might as well go be a stockbroker. They might as well go into finance.
See, you can be a rich dentist, you know.
Right.
God. Boy, did I go wrong on that one? But it is. I mean, and I know there's guys in school that were there because they were going to be a rich dentist. Well, guess what? You work your butt off being a dentist. Dentistry is hard work, and there may be a better profit line if you go in that more corporate direction.
But for how long?
Yeah. And then
and at what price? Huh?
And how many marriages do you go through, and all of the above? You know. God,
I think we're down to about our last minutes.
Oh, so, God, that went quick.
No, our last couple is, I guess, to tie a bow on it with COVID and stuff.
Sure.
What's the state of stuff now? I mean, you're pretty comfortable with it now, right? As far as
yes. We have a really good protocol to screen the patients when they come in. Again, because I want to make sure that today, I mean, the present is that we are COVID free.
Good.
In my office, in my home, with my patients, with my staff.
Got it.
I want today to know where everybody's status is.
So if they've been putting off a Hollywood smile for a year, it's time to come in and get it, right? Is that,
always, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for what you do.
My pleasure. I really enjoy talking with you, yeah.